Today I'm going to model a short piece of curved tunnel or passageway or corridor, and I'm going to include a few details like some hand railing and some pipes running along the roof and some light fixtures. So to get started, I'm going to go to Add, Mesh, Plane. I'm going to select Modeling Mode, and I'm going to press 7 on my numpad to make sure that I'm in top-down view. Scroll in a bit with my mouse wheel, and I'm going to select my knife tool here, and I'm going to cut this mesh. I'm going to start at the bottom. I'm going to go about 2 grid blocks in from the edge here, and I'll drag up. I'm going to press C, and I'm going to go to about 2 grid blocks from the top, and again 2 from the edge, and then just finish this cut down here. And I'm going to go back to select mode, select this face here. I need to select face mode, delete, and delete this face. Okay, so this is going to be the basic profile, like a cross section of the tunnel. And what I want to do first is go to vertex select mode, grab both of these vertices here. I'm going to press Control B for bevel, V to affect edges, and now I can scroll down and I can, drag down with my mouse, I should say, and I can scroll with my mouse wheel to add or remove these extra vertices or segments. So if you're making a lower poly model, you might want to only add a couple. I'm making a higher poly model, so I'm going to add several. And I just want to curve kind of the general profile here, so I'm just going to accept that. And I'm now going to select these top 2 vertices and do the same thing. Control B to bevel, V to affect edges, drag down with the mouse. I'm going to scroll up with the mouse wheel to add a couple more vertices, and click to accept. So I'm pretty happy with this as the general profile shape for my tunnel. Now I'm going to go ahead and add a circle, and I'll select my circle tool options here, and I'm going to change the number of vertices from 32 down to 16. I'll press S to scale, and I'm just going to type in 0.1, and then I'm going to scale it again here. I'm going to type S, let's say 0.4. That seems pretty good. Okay, I'm going to press G to move that and place this circle over here, and press F to make a face. And this is going to be our hand railing. It's going to turn into our hand railing. Now I'm going to press Shift D to duplicate that, drag it up here, S to scale, 0.5, and I'm going to press G to put that a little closer to the top here, Shift D X to move a copy over here, Shift D X to make another copy right about here. And so this is going to be like a row of 3 pipes or conduits along the roof of the tunnel. Okay, so I'm done with that. I need to extrude this. I'm going to change my view here by holding my middle mouse button, press A to select all, extrude with E, and drag my mouse up a little bit here. And so depending on if you're making a higher or lower poly model, if you're making a lower poly model, you can use less vertices for those circles as well, by the way, and you'll want to extrude this initial section out longer. So we're going to duplicate this initial section a whole bunch of times. So if you want a lower poly model, you make a bigger section here and make fewer duplicates. And for a higher poly model, it'll be a smaller cross section, lots of duplicates. So I'm going to type in 0.05, and that's the width I'm going to go with here. And before I can duplicate this a bunch of times, I want to remove these faces. We don't want to duplicate the faces, we just want to duplicate the cross section. So I've already got all these faces selected on this side, the U here and the 4 circles. So I'm going to flip to the other side, select face mode, hold shift, and click all these other faces here. I'll delete and delete only faces, And now I have this shell. And this is what we're going to duplicate, and this will make a proper mesh with the array modifier. Okay, so before I duplicate that, I want to stand this upright. And so I'm going to go to Layout Mode, press RX90. And now I'm going to apply the modifier. I'm going to go to Modifiers, Add Modifier, Array. And for a count here, I'm going to pick 300. So I've got 300 of these now in a row. Of course, that's the wrong direction. I don't want them in a row that way. So what I need to do here is change my relative offset from factor x 1 to 0 and z from 0 to 1. Okay, so now we're duplicating these in the right direction, and we've got basically the beginning of our tunnel. This is our railing on the side here and our 3 conduits or pipes along the roof here. And so the next step is I want to make this curved. So I'm going to add a curve and add a bezier. And now I'm going to press 7 for a top-down view, G to move the bezier curve here, and S to scale it up. S to scale that up. And now I'm going to go to modeling mode, press 7 for a top-down view again. And I'm going to press A to select all for the bezier curve here for the 2 nodes on the ends. Right click to subdivide, give me a 3rd node here in the middle. And now I can press G, select this middle handle and press G, and I'm just going to make, a shape like this. So, you can make whatever shape you want. Basically, for me, I just want my tunnel to have a curve. I don't want to be able to see through from one end clear to the other, and so this is fine for that. And so the next step is to apply the tunnel array, the tunnel shape here, to the curve. So I'm going to go to Layout and select my tunnel, and I'm going to add another modifier, add a curve, and in the curve modifier I'm going to select curve object here. I'm going to grab the eyedropper and click on this bezier curve. So the next thing we have to do is figure out which deform axis gives us the right results. And so usually I just try them all out. X, Y, Z, no, that's not right. Negative X, no. Negative Y, yes. So it's upside down, but this is basically what we want. And so now I can press G, Y, and just drag my tunnel piece along this curve to whatever suits me. And I'm just noticing one thing here. Okay, so I can see these sort of hard lines here in the edges of the walls, and so I made my cross sections pretty thin, and a lot thinner than this. And so the reason I'm seeing this is because the bezier curve that we're applying, that we're setting as our curve object, only has a certain resolution, and you can see sort of those same hard edges, hard corners in the bezier curve if you look close. So I'm going to select that, and I can fix that by going to Object Data Properties and changing the resolution here from 12 to, let's say, 60. And so now everything is much smoother. We can see our hard lines are gone here, and our railing and our pipes on the roof here, everything is all smoothed out. So that's perfect. I'm going to go ahead and reselect my tunnel, go to the Modifiers tab, and I'm going to apply the array and apply the curve. And now I'm going to select this bezier curve and delete it because I don't need that anymore. I'm going to select my tunnel and flip it over, RY 180. And I'm going to press 1 on the numpad and press GZ and just make sure this is just a hair below the horizon line here, the red line. And that's fine there. And now I'm going to look from above and just kind of center this in the world center relatively anyway. It doesn't have to be perfect, but I'm going to put this over here and something like that. And now that I've got it there, I'm going to go Object, Set Origin, Origin to 3D Cursor. Okay, and I'm going to right-click this, and I'm going to Shade Smooth. I'll go over to Object Data Properties, go to Normals, and Auto Smooth. And now the next step is I need to fix these end caps here where they're open. There's no face on the ends. So I'm going to go to Modeling Mode and select Edge Mode. Zoom in here a bit, and I'm going to hold Alt while I click on the very edge loop here. So it's going to select the entire edge loop. I can press F to make a face, and I can go to the other side and do the same thing. I'm going to hold Alt while I click the edge loop here, press F and make a face, and those are closed off. Now, these are kind of flat, and I don't want it flat like this. The whole tunnel's kind of curvy, and so I want to continue that on these, on this face here. So I'm going to hold Alt and select the whole loop again here. Select this face. Control B to bevel, and let's press C to clamp. Okay, and now this is okay, except for I don't want to bevel those bottom edges. I'm going to press Escape, and I'm going to just hold Shift here and click to deselect both of these bottom edges. And now when I Control B for a bevel, and I need to press C for a clamp again. There we go. Okay. Now this is what I want. So we're beveling the edges that are above the ground, but not that front edge. And I'm going to put on maybe 3 segments here. Maybe 4 segments. Nice and smooth. Okay. So I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. I'm going to hold Alt to select the whole loop here. And then I'm going to release Alt. I'm going to press Shift and unselect these 2 bottom edges. And then I'm going to press Control B and bevel the front edges. Okay, so that's done, and now I need to close up these pipes and this railing end. So pretty much the same thing here. I'm just going to hold Alt and click this last edge loop. F to make a face, Control B to bevel it, and just drag like that. And for these here, I'm going to do basically the same thing. So I'm going to press clear my selection here, hold Alt and click the outside edge loop. I'm going to grab all 3 of these at once. I'll need to hold Shift and Alt at the same time. And there we go. I've got all 3 of those selected. F to make faces, and Control B. And I don't need that many segments. Those are smaller pipes. I'm going to scroll down with my mouse wheel and just maybe make 2 segments like that. And that's good. Okay, so those pipes are closed off, and that's pretty much it for this side. I'm going to go do the same operations on this side. I'm going to grab the outer edge loop here with Alt, F for a face, Control B, and for this one I'm putting on 4 segments. Then I'm going to go up to these pipes on the roof and hold Alt and Shift, F, Control B, and just 2 segments for these. All right. Okay, so that's pretty much it for the modeling end, and now I'm going to move on to making my lamp fixtures. So actually, before I make my lamp fixtures, I'm going to set some materials and unwrap my UVs here. So I'll do materials first, and what I'll do is press L here. Okay, so when I press L, I'm only getting a single cross section of my tunnel, one of those original cross sections. And that's because I didn't select merge on my array. So what I can do now is go to layout, modifiers, add a modifier, weld, and apply. We'll go back to modeling mode and press L, hovering over my outside mesh here. And now I've selected basically all of this mesh except for the railing and the pipes up here on the roof. And so I'm going to go to Materials tab here and make a new material, new, and call this Walls, and click Assign. Okay, I'm going to clear my selection and hover over this railing and press L. Make a new material. I'm going to call this Railing and Assign. And then I'm going to clear my selection, hover over these pipes on the roof here, L, 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 and I'm going to make another material, new, roof pipes, and Assign. And now I'm going to move on to the UVs. And depending how you're going to texture this or what you're using the model for, you might do your UVs differently. For me, I'm going to apply some materials in Unreal Engine, and so I'm going to go ahead and unwrap everything basically onto a single UV space. Okay, so I'm going to go UV editing mode, flip this over, and start on the bottom here. And what I want to do is select, I'm going to hold, clear my selection, hold Alt and click an edge loop here. And I've got the whole outside edge here selected now. I'm going to hold Shift and Alt and click the inside edge and the other side here. I'm going to get both of those edges as well. Now I'm going to move to these front edges, and holding Shift and Alt, I'm going to click here to finish this edge loop. Shift and Alt, clicking there. Shift and Alt, clicking there. And Shift and Alt, I'm clicking there. So now I've selected basically the entire bottom footprint of the tunnel, the part of the tunnel that the part of the walls that touch the ground. And I'm going to mark this as a seam. So I'm going to right click and go mark seam. And so these are going to be unwrapped as separate UV islands. So the next thing I want to do here is select these front faces. So I'm going to clear my selection and just zoom a little here. I'm going to hold Alt and select this line here. So I've got this whole front face after the beveling. And I'm going to right click and mark seam. I'm going to flip over and do the same thing on the other side. Clear my selection, hold Alt, click here, and mark seam. And so these front little U-shape faces will get their own little UV island. And with that marked, the bottoms marked and those front faces marked, basically everything else here can be just unwrapped as it is. So I'm going to unwrap the walls, that is. We're not going to unwrap the railing or the top pipes here yet. I'm just going to press L to select the wall again. And I'm going to go to UV, unwrap. And this is our result here. So this is our inner and outer shell of the tunnel. And these are the bottom footprints. And these are those U-shape faces on the front and the back, or the entrance and exit, or whatever you want to call it. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with that, and now I'm going to go ahead and do unwraps for these railing and pipes here. So for these, I'm going to clear my selection, hold Alt, and select a edge loop here that runs along the back of this railing, along between the railing and the wall. So it's hard to see here, obviously. I can't really get the camera in too far, but you can see that where this line is headed, it's coming from the center point here along the back of the railing, and it goes along the whole railing all the way to the other end cap. So I'm going to go ahead, right click, mark seam, and now I also need to select this edge ring here, this last edge ring before we start beveling. I'm going to grab that, Alt and select that, and right click and mark seam. And I'm going to do the same thing with these pipes up top here. So for the pipes on the top, I'm going to hold Alt and select a loop, an edge loop that is between the pipe and the roof. So this edge loop that I've selected, I'm just going to change my focal view here. Okay, I've selected an edge loop here, and it runs between the pipe and the roof all the way down to the other side, to the other end cap. I'm going to do the same thing on this one and the same thing on this one. Right click, mark them as seams, and I'll clear my selection and mark all of these edge rings as well. I'm going to select this one, and this one, so I'm holding Alt and Shift to grab all those. And right click, mark seam, and I'm going to flip over and do the same thing the other side. So I need to Alt, Shift and Alt, Shift and Alt, mark seam, and on the railing here I need to hold Alt, and I'm not sure if that was the right ring. I think yes it is. Mark seam. Okay, and so now we're ready to unwrap the railings and these pipes. So I'm going to go ahead and select them all by pressing L while hovering over them. So L over the railing, L over the pipes, and UV unwrap. Okay, so it's unwrapped our pipes here, and it's just kind of placing them at the edge of the UV space, which is fine. These are our end caps here, and so I'm pretty happy with that. That'll work for me, depending again how you're planning to texture or how you're planning to use the model. You might do things a little bit differently than that, but that's going to work for me. So I'm going to move on here to building some light fixtures for the roof here for inside the tunnel. So I'm going to start by adding a mesh, adding a plane, and I'll press G, Y to move this over here. And I'm going to press S to scale this, and I'm going to press S, Y to scale this way, make this more rectangular. I'm going to go to modeling mode, and I'm going to select face mode, E to extrude, and I'm just going to extrude that a little bit. So now I've got a small little volume here, a small little rectangle box. And I'm going to press Control B. Let's bevel this front face here and scroll up with the mouse wheel, add a couple of segments. And I'll grab this face in the middle here, E to extrude, drop it down in, a little bit back into this. I'm just kind of making a like a trim for this, like a mount or a trim for a light fixture. And so let's see, I'm going to just inset this. Press I to inset, and S, Y to scale that, and I'll press E to extrude, and Control B again to bevel. Okay, so I'm happy with this for a like sort of a mount or a trim or whatever you want to call it. So the next thing I'm going to do is grab this front face, Shift D to duplicate it, and press Escape and S to scale it. And I want to scale it down something like this. I'm going to press RZ90 to turn it, GX over here, E to extrude, and let's see, if I press Control B, I can round this edge off. No, Escape. I'm going to press L, hovering over this piece to grab the whole thing, and let's see, Control B. Yeah, okay, so this is pretty much what I want to do here. So I'm going to bevel the edges, SZ to scale this up a little bit, like maybe like this, GZ to move it down, SZ, scale a bit more. Okay, and now I want to put like I'm thinking like sort of a bulb holder or socket holder, whatever you want to call it. And now I'm going to put a bulb on here. So I want to, for a bulb, I could add a cylinder, but I'm just going to grab this face here, Shift D, Z, move it up a bit here, and extrude it up a bit like this. And I'll go S, Y, oops, L, S, Y, and SX, and Control B. And I'm just going to press L over this part, SY, bring it in a little bit. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with that. Nothing too fancy. And so what I'm going to do is make sure that this is UV unwrapped and materials set up before I duplicate this a few times in the tunnel. So the first thing I'll do here is check I just want to make sure all my faces are facing the right way. So I'm going to go to my overlays here, go to face orientation, and everything's blue, so that's good, everything's correct. The next thing I'll do here is hover over the light trim part, press L, go to UV editing, and I'm just going to use I'm going to go to UV here and use Smart UV Project. It gives me this layout here, which is pretty much fine for that. So I'll clear my selection and press L over the socket part here, or the bulb holder. We've already got some unwrap here that's probably just fine, but I'm going to go anyway to UV, Smart UV Project, and unwrap it like that. And then I'll clear my selection, L over the light bulb part here, UV, Smart UV Project, and there we go. Okay, so now just to set up a couple materials here, I'm going to go to modeling mode here, and I will go to the materials tab. Okay, so I'm actually going to I'm going to hit new material here, new, and call this light bulb. Whoops. Oops, that's even worse. Okay, light bulb. Now I'm going to clear my, I'm going to assign those, that selected part of the model here to the light bulb material, clear my selection, press L over the socket here, plus for a new material, new, we'll call this bulb socket, assign, and clear my selection, L over the trim part, plus for a new material, I'll hit new and call this light trim, and assign. Okay, now I'm going to go to layout, and I'm going to select this and press G and Y, move it into the tunnel here. I'm just going to press Control 7 to get a bottom view, and GZ to move this. So let's see here, GZ, where am I at? Okay, I can't quite see it, so I have to go R, Y 180. We'll flip this over, G, Z, and we want to put this just below the roof line here, so right like that. Control 7 again to look from the top, and actually I'm just going to move this all the way to the edge here. Press R to rotate it. Shift D to duplicate, put it over here. R to rotate that, and Shift D to duplicate. I'm going to put maybe one here, and R to rotate it. Shift D to duplicate, maybe here, R to rotate that. Okay, and I'm pretty happy with this placement. I'm not going to fuss with it too much. This could probably be straightened up. Oops. A little bit, but overall I'm pretty happy with that in general. So that pretty much wraps it up for the basic modeling part for the tunnel. And so in the next video, I'm going to import this model into Unreal Engine, and I'm going to apply some materials and some lighting and some other details like some blood spatters and some trash and a couple of other things. So let me know if you have any questions in the comments below, and otherwise thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.